It's time! And now, introducing your host, fighting out of Las Vegas, Nevada, by way of Boston, Massachusetts, presenting live,
the Bostonian versus the Book. Follow the show on Twitter at Boston versus the Book.
Here he is, Matt Perrault!
Enjoy the show, enjoy the show, enjoy the show, enjoy the show.
We're off and running on a Friday. What's up, guys? How are you? Welcome into a new episode of the Bostonian versus the Book. My name is Matt Perrault. We are live on YouTube and X at Boston versus the Book, your audio podcast, wherever you guys get your audio podcast. And Sports Grid got the replay on TV across the globe, globally on Sports Grid, 1 a.m. Eastern Time, 10 p.m. Pacific Time. Today, we'll jump into some college basketball, some NBA. We'll bounce around with a variety of things going on in the sports world. There's clearly a lot of gambling news industry-wise. So the news of the industry, there's a lot to get to today with what happened in the last 24 hours. It's a topic that I love getting into, and there's some interesting things we're going to tackle. There has been some breaking news that we'll get to probably Monday, because I need to do a little bit more research as to what's going on. But it sounds like the Senate is finally had enough with the CFTC, and the ranking member has decided to say, what the hell is going on in Chicago? Because that office has been gutted by the CFTC, and essentially there is nobody watching the hen house, and the foxes are all circling. So we'll get to that probably on Monday's program. But we got games tonight, Michigan, Illinois. That'll start us off with the opening line. We'll get to the 40-20 rule for the NBA. I'll talk about that going on. I'm not going to do much with the Combine today, because I feel like if you care about the Combine, there's other shows you guys can go and watch for the Combine. And it feels like a lot of hype without a lot of substance. Like, I like watching the Combine, and I'll spend the weekend watching the Combine and talking about the Combine, but I don't think we get much. One, there's no real actionable information. Like, if a guy goes out there and performs really well in the Combine, that's great for his own personal brand and career in the NFL. But other than, like, if Fernando Mendoza goes out there and breaks his arm, like, there's nothing else really to talk about in terms of, like, you know, I'm not a draft expert. I'm not studying game film. I'm not watching because I don't really care where these players wind up going, to be quite honest. Sure, they could be impactful and they may help, but no one that gets drafted in April is going to significantly move the needle for a win or loss over under next year. Like, maybe a half, maybe. I don't know if any, maybe a quarterback like Mendoza with the Raiders would move it from like a 6.5 to a 7 type of number. So for that reason, it's a lot of fun to watch the Combine. I just don't feel like we get a lot out of it. It's the underwear Olympics. It's fun. There's nothing else going on, really. So, yeah, I understand why, if you're a diehard NFL football fan or a big football fan in general, to watch how these guys perform. The tight ends and safeties today will go and run the 40 and the cone drill and catching and whatever they're going to do from a workout perspective. So I get the idea that the Combine does have an interest level for a lot of people. But for me, tomorrow's insane. The college basketball slate tomorrow, there are so many good games tomorrow. The Spurs will play the Knicks coming up this weekend. They've won 11 straight games. Spring training is opening up across, you know, the Arizona and Florida landscapes. Hockey is back. Let's talk about games, not fake workouts. Let's talk about games as to how these things are going to progress. And we got a huge one coming up tonight in the Big Ten. It's a Friday night. Illinois hosting Michigan, the opening line. It is the opening line being presented by our friends at Huel. This is our last day with these guys in February. This offer goes away today. Number 3, Michigan, laying 1.5 at number 10, Illinois tonight. This offer ends today. 15% off online at huel.com/BvB. That code BvB will save you 15% off your first order. For Huel, they've got ready-to-drink shakes. They've got the powder that you can create your own smoothies. They've got energy bars. They've got greens. All sorts of things can be found at Huel.com to help you on your fitness journey. And for the protein shakes, it is vegan, it's gluten-free, 27 minerals and essential vitamins, plus the 40 grams of protein that can be found in Huel. Huel.com/BVB or 15% off using the code BVB. Let's start talking about this game tonight. This is going to be a really interesting matchup. We haven't done much of this, like we're taking one game and like breaking one game down, but I'm doing it because yesterday it wasn't intentional, but we talked about the top 5 teams at BetCris Arizona from the futures market. But number 6 is Illinois. And the Illini tonight will have a huge opportunity to showcase what they've been doing this season. And Brad Underwood is a coach that I first started to come across when he was the head coach of Stephen F. Austin. I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again. So Stephen F. Austin, small school, little north of Houston, was looking for a radio play-by-play home to have a broad, large platform. And at the time, I'm working in Houston for then what was called Yahoo Sports Radio. And I'm doing marketing, sales, and hosting like I do here on BvB. And so I'm calling around, and I forget how I got connected with Stephen F. Austin, but essentially it landed on my desk to go and negotiate whether or not Stephen F. Austin would pay the company in Houston, because they had the national network, but also 2 local radio stations. Would Stephen F. Austin pay to air their games on the local stations in Houston? Because you want, obviously, the Houston people to pay attention, because Brad Underwood was building something at Stephen F. Austin. He had gone to the tournament, I think it was back-to-back years, and he was going into a 3rd year, and he wanted more exposure. He wanted more attention. I ended up negotiating the deal with Brad Underwood. Like, there wasn't a intermediary, there wasn't an SID, there wasn't a chancellor. It was me on the phone with Brad Underwood going back and forth about whether or not the games would air in Houston. Now, Brad Underwood, before that deal was able to be signed, Brad Underwood took the job in Champaign, Illinois, and became the head coach of the Illini. And 9 years ago, that guy has been doing an incredible job. I mean, he's been crushing it. And so when you look at how Brad Underwood with the Illini, the program he has built, well, we haven't really been talking much about them this year. Mark, go Illini, go I just think it's interesting to see kind of where this program is, even this year, because we've talked about Michigan, we're talking about Duke, we're talking about Florida, we're talking about Houston, and nobody really is talking about the Illini. So much so that they are home dogs tonight to Michigan, catching 1.5. We put up Michigan's numbers yesterday. We talked about all what we thought about Michigan and how good Michigan has been this year. Net rating of 2. They're 26-2. They're 11-1 in quad 1 games. They're 9-1 in quad 2 games. We know what Michigan is. We know how good Michigan is. And I'm not saying they shouldn't be favored tonight, because look, they're 9-0 on the road this year. Michigan's been road warriors. And in their last road game, they went to Mackey and they blew the doors off Purdue. That impressed me so much that I thought, okay, they're going to play Duke and they're going to beat Duke. Didn't happen. That was neutral, though. That wasn't on the road. That was a neutral site in Washington, D.C., and Duke has now won 9 straight games against Michigan. So what about tonight? What about the Illini tonight? They have a net rating of 4. Now, they're ranked lower than that, but they have a net rating for the math of 4. The reason the polls have them lower, down to 10th, is because of the losses. They're 8-5 in quad 1 games. They're 6-1 in quad 2 games. The loss to Wisconsin, not great. Wisconsin has beaten both Michigan and Illinois this year, but you lose to Alabama, to UConn, to Nebraska, to Michigan State, and to UCLA. Now, those aren't bad teams. Those are quad 1 games. But when you lose those quad 1 games, it does hurt you in the eyes of the betting and voting public. The Illini are 11-1 to win it all at BetCris Arizona. They're the 6th option. And you might go, well, why? Well, this is why. Because of the losses to UConn, Alabama, Michigan State, like we talked about. When you lose a bunch of these games, well, people are going to say, how good are you really? And they're going to question you. The resume for Illinois is good. But in a game like tonight, this is KenPom and the breakout. And I know it's a little hard to see that because the numbers are small. But let me just point out the Michigan offense against the Illini defense. And this is the problem. You have a top 5 offensive efficient team in Michigan. You have a top 10 effective field goal percentage on offense from Michigan. You have a top 75 3-point shooting team, and you have one of the best top 5 2-point shooting percentage-wise teams in the country. You have a team in Michigan that only relies on about 31% of their offense from outside the arc, and about half their offense comes inside the arc. What the Illini do well defensively, well, they stop the 3 and they kind of stop the 2, but not enough to stop Michigan. On the other side, Michigan defensively, it's huge. They guard the 3 as well as anybody in the Big Ten. They guard the rim as well as anybody in the country. They're top 5 in defensive efficiency. They're top 5 in effective field goal percentage. They're top 50 in 3-point defense. They're top 10 in 2-point defense. And you have a team in the Illini that relies almost 40% of their offense is coming from behind the 3-point line. And you have an incredibly good defensive team in Michigan stopping those shots. So who do I like tonight? Defensively, I like it because of Michigan and Michigan's defense. I've laid the 1.5 points. I like Michigan tonight to go on the road to improve, to go to 10-0. But I don't say that in any disrespect to Illinois. I'm not saying that as like they are a team that can't wind up in Indianapolis, that they aren't a legitimate Final Four contender, because I really do think that they are a legitimate Final Four contender. But the numbers do worry me a little bit just about the opportunities that they have had. When you lose on a neutral to Alabama and UConn, you can say, Matt, that was earlier in the year. Fine. But later in the year, you lose to UCLA, you lose to Michigan State, you lose to Wisconsin, you lose to Nebraska. You're losing games in which Michigan's not, right? The resume difference is quite stark. 11-1 in quad 1 wins, right? They're 9-1 in quad 2 games. So Michigan just has been the better team. And look, they played Nebraska. They beat Nebraska. You just go by and see, they played Ohio State. They beat Ohio State. So you can compare the resumes. They both did lose to Wisconsin. I'll give you that. But I just think the overall talent level defensively for Michigan tonight is going to be the difference in that game. And I think the rim protection, Illinois has to get to the free throw line. Illinois has to hit threes. And I don't think Michigan's going to allow them to do that. But this is going to be a barn burner of a basketball game. There's nothing going on tonight, okay? There's nothing going on tonight opposite this. This is a standalone Friday night game in which if you're looking for something to pay attention to, if you're looking for something to watch tonight, this is the game. Like this is the game that you want to pay attention to. This is the game that you want to kind of clear off the deck and be like, I want to watch this, because let's see if Michigan can keep themselves undefeated on the road, and let's see if the Illini can get a really big scalp. Because again, going back to their resume, and they're going to be a really high seed. You look at Illinois' resume, their best win, beating Texas Tech at home, very impressive. Beating Purdue on the road, equally. That's the best win for Michigan. That ties, in my mind, they both have a similar win by going to Purdue and winning that game. Beating Nebraska, decent, right? Good win. But the losses is the problem for the Illini. 8-5 versus 11-1. there's just a difference in the resume there. So that's why Illinois is not going to be a number one seed in the tournament, and why Michigan most likely will be a number one seed coming up in the tournament. But the Illini at a 3, one of the last 2s of the first 3s coming up on Selection Sunday, they win this game, they beat Michigan. If they win this game and beat Michigan in the Big Ten title, and they win that, they could very well be a number one seed. It's not off the table for Illinois to be a number one seed. I just think Michigan is so large. They are just a big basketball team, and they rebound. They got out-rebounded by Duke. I was stunned that happened, that they were out-rebounded by Duke. But it happened. Yeah, Kevin, you're right. It is a game. I'm betting it, but I don't mind you saying that. I don't mind you going and saying, hey, I'm going to watch and learn and see what happens. Michigan State's win over Purdue. It does. Yeah, it's a big win for Michigan State. It does kind of, the way Purdue is playing right now, it's not great, right? For those, like I just said, Illinois and Michigan, both the best wins were at Purdue. Michigan State beats Purdue. Like, it's getting to be a little bit of a trend here with Purdue losing. And so it's going to hurt that win and that quality of win for both Illinois and Michigan. So that game went over last night. We talked about it. You heard it from Adam Bjorn yesterday, talking about that game in the master money coming in on Michigan State. I like the over 141.5, 142.5. Both those sides wound up hitting for us last night. But I like Michigan tonight. I'm laying the 1.5 points tonight with Michigan in the Big Ten. I think the rebounding and the defense for Michigan, not allowing open 3-point shots and second chance opportunities for Illinois. But the Orange Crush is going to be at full throat all game. And that's why Michigan impressed me so much by going into Mackey and beating Purdue like that, because that's one of the hardest places to play in the country. Champaign sucks too. I mean, that's for teams to go into that building on a Friday night. The kids are drinking right now. Like they're getting ready for this game coming up tonight right now. Awesome college basketball game on deck tonight. I'll lay the short number with Michigan, but a lot to learn about Illinois tonight if they can come up with a big win and knock off a top 3 team at home. Don't storm the court, kids. If you win, don't storm the court. Act like you're supposed to be in that battle with Michigan, even though you're number 10 and they're number 3. More. Let's talk about the NBA. What happened last night? All right, what happened last night? Not really a game, but more of a topic, because this now is everywhere. I knew of the 40-20 rule before last night, but did you guys? Did you know what the 40-20 rule? So the 40-20 rule was made up by Phil Jackson, then the coach of the Bulls, went on to be the coach of the Lakers. This is something that he talked about when it came to the 60-game mark of the 82-game schedule in the NBA, saying that teams that won their 40th game before losing their 20th game have a legitimate chance to win a championship. In fact, this has been a pretty consistent thing since 1980. Only four teams haven't gone 40-20, where they've won 40 games before they've lost 20 games. The 94-95 Rockets, they were underachieving, but then they went on and won the championship because they got very hot in the playoffs. The 03-04 Pistons, if you remember, they traded for Rasheed Wallace, and that changed their defense and changed their entire season. The 05-06 Heat saw Pat Riley step back onto the sidelines, replacing Stan Van Gundy, going and winning that game. And then the 2020-21 Bucks. Now, hold on a second. That's a Mickey Mouse season in the NBA. Fine. It was the pandemic and everything else. Like, it just fine. You can take that. Really, it's 3 teams that have done that. 3 teams that have wound up becoming who did not go 40-20 since 1980. So who are those teams right now? When you look at the NBA standings right now, who are those teams? Well, clearly it is OKC, right? What they have done is remarkable. I mean, how they have performed this year at 45-15, they're tremendous. The Spurs are also in that category, 43-16. And from the Eastern Conference, it's the Pistons at 43-14. The interesting hook to this is, what do you do about the Boston Celtics? Because they're 38-20. They lost their 20th game of the year to the Denver Nuggets 2 nights ago. Boston will play tonight at home against the Brooklyn Nets, who are straight up tanking, who have lost 6 straight games and are 2-8 over their last 10. And they are 17.5-point dogs on the road to Boston tonight. So Boston's going to win their 39th game. And then if they win the next game after that, I actually don't know who Boston plays after that. They play the Nets tonight, and then they play the Sixers on Sunday. So if they win that game, Boston would be 40-20. It wouldn't officially count towards what we're talking about, the 40-20 rule, but it would be close enough on the 40-20 rule. But if you do believe in it, there are 3 teams that can win the championship: Detroit, OKC, San Antonio. One of those 3 teams will be winning the championship. But I will say this: you have to ask the question about the Boston Celtics, because they might be the exception to the rule because of Jason Tatum. If Tatum comes back, and what to do with Jason Tatum, I'll talk about it here in just 1 second. But if he comes back, Boston's going to get a shot in the arm, and it won't matter what their record is. They could very well, that 40-20 rule may not apply to the Boston Celtics. The Rockets are 37-21. They just made some interesting trades. The Knicks have underachieved. The Nuggets are still the Nuggets. The Cavaliers just picked up James Harden. The T-Wolves have played better of late. Could they get into the mix? Possibly. But 4 teams since 1980, only 4 of them did not get in to cut down the nets and win the championship. Only 4 of them did not get to the 40th win before they lost their 20th game as a barometer. If you are the Boston Celtics, the people who are talking about Jason Tatum's injury, it is fascinating to me, the takes we are seeing across the country about Jason Tatum and the Achilles. And it's all being based off of this pseudo doctor armchair quarterbacking that we all do when it comes to injuries in America. Because we just saw Stephon Diggs come back from an ACL injury with the Patriots and have a very productive season, faster than anybody else had ever come back from at the wide receiver spot to play high-level football in the NFL and be productive. Not just be out there, but be productive, be a legitimate target for an NFL offense. Jason Tatum had surgery immediately. The next day, he injured the Achilles against the Knicks in New York, and the next morning, he was having surgery, a advanced surgery onto how to fix the Achilles tendon. Now, this is new science, okay? And not to say I can equate my life to Jason Tatum by any means, but let me just explain the things I have learned over the last 6 months of my own life. So, if you guys remember, I fell down the stairs here at this house. I have a split level house. I fell down the stairs and I don't know if I've ever told this story, to be quite honest. Maybe I haven't told you guys this story, but when I fell down the stairs, I was by myself. It was in the morning. I had just dropped off my daughter for school. I came back. I was running down the stairs. No, it was a Saturday because I wasn't doing BvB, right? I don't think I was on the air, or was I? I can't remember that whole 24 hours. Anyways, I fell on the stairs. I heard my pec tendon tear. It sounded like burlap ripping in my chest. Now, I was at the doctor's office literally 30 minutes after I got hurt. I was able to get in and see my doctor, and my doctor didn't think I had done any real damage. So my doctor said, let's wait and see if it swells, if it gets all black and blue. Let's see. Well, we had some scarring, some issues, but nothing like we thought. It wasn't like a full black across my chest like what normally happens when you tear your pec tendon. I'll get to the point in a second as to why I'm telling this story. So I ended up waiting about 2 weeks before I was reevaluated. And after I was reevaluated, it was pretty much like, okay, we don't think you need an MRI. We think you just need to rest it. And it's not that big of a deal. So I didn't get it looked at. I didn't get an MRI for about 3 weeks after I did the injury. Then I went to New Hampshire and I saw a different doctor. And that doctor sent me to an MRI immediately. And it came back that I had torn the tendon right off the bone. Like I had ripped it right off. And the reason why I was able to move it was because there was nothing there's no residual. It was gone. It had been totally pulled out. And I had a choice. I could have surgery right then and there and not go to Scotland and not go to Oasis, or I could just wait. And I waited. I wanted to take the trip. I took the trip. So I come back, I have the surgery, and they told me going into it that, look, when it comes to tendons, we want to fix this immediately. And they referenced the new technology that has been uncovered and why doctors don't wait anymore. I should have had surgery the next day after I fell down the stairs and tore my tendon. I should have been in surgery the next day. Jason Tatum was in surgery the next day. We have discovered that in order for the tendon to not atrophy, and that's been my number one problem and why my shoulder's been locked up for the last 6 months. And I had the surgery in September. It's now March and I'm still rehabbing. I'm still not anywhere close. I'm probably 60% back. 6 months. Now it's going to be a full year before I get really back. And that's hard at a 48, 49-year-old guy, because there's always that worry about, like, the older I get in the second half of my life, I'm not like Tatum. Tatum is his late 20s. He heals like that. I'm 48. I don't heal like I used to. So I should have had surgery immediately, but I wouldn't have had the best trip of my life. I wouldn't have gone to Oasis. If someone had told me, would you have gone and give up mobility in your right arm? Some mobility, I mean, not all, but some. See, I can move it, but some mobility in your right arm to go and see one of your favorite bands in Edinburgh, Scotland, on an epic tour, I probably would have said yes. I probably would have said, yeah, I'll give up that to have that experience, because you can't recreate. Nothing you could do could recreate that moment that I had at Murrayfield Gas Stadium, watching that band in that moment by myself in a foreign country. So, like, fine. Everything comes with every decision has its own outcome, has its own repercussion. And that repercussion is I should have had surgery and I didn't have surgery. So you injure it in June, you have surgery in September, there's going to be some problems. Like, for instance, they gave me a cadaver Achilles tendon. I have 3 Achilles tendons now, 2 in my feet and 1 in my chest, which I did not know was going to happen, by the way, until I woke up. Until I woke up, right? So, like, I ended up tearing it. Came out and they're like, okay, we had to do a graft. I'm like, what does that mean? They're like, well, we had to use a cadaver Achilles tendon to reattach your tendon to your body. I was like, excuse me? we did what? Did not know. And they're like, this is all the research you need to know. This is all the information you need to know about the donor and everything. I was just like, whoa, that's bizarre. I did not know that. So for Jason Tatum, it's a long way of getting to the point about Jason Tatum and this conversation. Medicine, if he gets medically cleared to play, meaning a doctor says you are able to play basketball without the risk of re-injury, and if you do get hurt, it's simply just a fluke injury, right? But if you get hurt again, you would have gotten hurt anyway, and that's just how it is. I think if Jason Tatum is medically cleared, he has to be medically cleared. That is not an easy bar to overcome. But if he gets medically cleared by the doctors to play basketball, why wouldn't you play Jason Tatum? Like, why wouldn't you let him be out there on the court? What are you going to tell him? Because we're afraid of what might happen? You might re-injure it? We all could get clipped by a bus tomorrow. If you're able to do something that you were born to do, he's a top 5 player in the NBA. And I know you want to get him back to that position, but he would not get cleared medically unless he was able to play the position at the level that we expect him to play it at. So if Tatum is able to play, you play Jason Tatum. If he's not able to play, then you don't play Jason Tatum. But if Jason Tatum comes back, I don't care what the 40-20 rule means. You're not bringing him off the bench, by the way. Like, I'm not bringing Jason Tatum. I may have him on a minutes restrictions, but I'm not bringing Jason Tatum off the bench. Jason Tatum is playing with the Boston Celtics like he always does, always has. Okay. You could say, well, what do you make of Jaylen Brown and what he has? Jason Tatum is a top 5 player in the NBA. No matter what type of nonsense people want to scream about his resume is ridiculous. What this guy has done in his career. He has a championship. He has multiple Eastern Conference Finals appearances. He's in the prime of his life, the prime of his career. You play Jason Tatum when he gets cleared medically, and you don't play him off the bench. You play him as a starter, and you go back to the type of team that Joe Mazzulla won a championship with. And all these other guys who have gotten so much exposure and so much run, it's only going to help you. Baylor Shireman, Creighton's own, first-round pick for the Celtics. I didn't know what Baylor Shireman would look like for Boston. He's been unbelievable for the Celtics. He's been great. Derek White continues to be the most underrated star in the NBA that nobody talks about. Derek White is so good, it's ridiculous. Jaylen Brown is tremendous. But you play Jason Tatum if he gets cleared to play. You got to clear him. And I'm not saying that's going to be easy, but you clear him. Straight up, you clear him if you can. I'm not saying rush it, but once the doctors say he's good to go, put him on the court and then see what happens. And look, if he says, I'm not ready, okay. But by all indication, he's playing full 5-on-5. He's on track to play. I don't think he plays this weekend. Okay, I don't think that's what's going to happen. I don't think the NBC moving the Celtics into prime time against the Sixers, I don't think that's what happens. I don't think he plays this weekend, but I do think he's going to play before I thought he was going to play. I said Easter. Put him back onto the court, let him play 15 games, and then go to the postseason. It's going to be before that. It might even be before St. Patrick's Day for Jason Tatum to come back and play for the Boston Celtics, and that is huge. Changing gears. The White House made an announcement that I found to be pretty interesting this morning. So the White House is going to do what they're calling a sports roundtable to talk about the future of college athletics. This roundtable will be chaired by President Trump, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, and New York Yankees President Randy Levine. This is going to be a 35-person roundtable who was invited by the president. It includes Tiger Woods, college football coaches Nick Saban, Mac Brown, and Urban Meyer, Condoleezza Rice, Jonathan Kraft, Adam Silver, Eric Shanks from Fox Sports, Jimmy Pitaro from ESPN, several athletic directors, and former college athletes like Tim Tebow and Charlie Ward are going to be there to have this conversation. Now, take the political thing aside. Take your own, whatever, however you feel about President Trump, and put it to the side. Just acknowledge that this is a good thing, that we are going to have a conversation about the future of college sports, about trying to find a way to make it work better, to fix the problems that are currently going on. But I got to be honest, this really feels like a photo op. This doesn't feel like it's going to fix anything. I don't know how many times they're going to meet after Friday, but when you have that many people in one room, when you have that many different opinions in one room, how are you going to get anything accomplished? Like really accomplished? I'm all for Nick Saban or Urban Meyer becoming a college football czar. I am all for some type of body with real power coming into play, like the federal government talking about the antitrust laws that the NCAA would like to have changed, and to have some real in-depth conversation about what is going on with name, image, and likeness, what is going on with the transfer portal, and what is going on with the payment of players. I'm fine with all of that. I think it's a really good starting point. I don't expect anything from this. I don't expect, like, some of the people are great to have them be there, but you're going to have to explain to me why Tiger Woods is being invited to this. Like, Tiger Woods played golf at Stanford 25 years ago. Why is Tiger Woods being a part of this? Because Charlie Woods is going to come up and play? What is the point? Nick Saban, Urban Meyer, I love. Tim Tebow, Charlie Ward, I don't mind it. I even don't mind Adam Silver being involved with the NBA and the NBA draft and what's been going on. But 35 people talking to a governor in Florida, why? And the president of the New York Yankees, baseball's not a problem, guys. Like, this isn't, like, college baseball is fine. Like, leave college baseball alone. I don't fully understand why we're doing this, why we're bringing him. It just feels like this is a way of getting into a room with a bunch of famous people and letting the president take pictures with them, and having, the State of the Union wasn't the State of the Union. The State of the Union was basically just an award ceremony. Like, this is kind of like I feel like we're just like continuing this entire thing now, where we're all going to get into a room and we're going to expect them to have some proposals being discussed with 35 people all doing what? Like, how are you? Is it an open dialogue? Is it a convention type style where you're yelling out ideas? Is it like a brainstorming thing where someone's going to be at a whiteboard and they're going to be writing everything down? Are we voting? Like, this doesn't feel real. This doesn't feel like a legitimate attempt at fixing the problem. This just feels fake. It feels phony. And this is a real problem that a lot of people want fixed. And a lot of people who support the president in states that voted for the president love college athletics, and they want this fixed. So I get the political idea of, let's make it look like we're going to attempt to fix this. But with 35 people in the room, why is Jonathan Kraft being there? What is the point of the Patriots president going? I mean, what? There's no active head coaches being invited to this. They didn't actually invite anybody whose lives are actually going to be affected by whatever these people come up with. Like, how is that possible? How do you not have a single active head coach in college basketball or college football? How did you not invite a single one of them to be a part of this? That seems to be like the most easy lot. Like, Nick Saban there is great. Like I mentioned, Urban Meyer there. It's great. I'm psyched that those two guys are there. But nobody else? Not Kirby Smart? Like, nobody who's being impacted by this? Like, I don't know. Go find anybody in college basketball that you think, Tom Izzo, anybody? John Calipari, anybody? Rick Pitino? Like, find somebody who actually, and I know they're playing right now, but find an off day and have one of those people be able to fly up. Or you say, well, it's, college basketball can't do it. Football can. College football can. I don't understand this. This is a real problem. This needs to be addressed. And I commend the president for wanting to get people together into a room. This just doesn't feel like a serious attempt at fixing this with the people being invited and how it's being put together by, as far as what I can tell, for one day. This is a one-day thing. One day being spent to fix college athletics. I hope I'm wrong. I hope we see multiple days. I hope this turns into like a monthly meeting. But you think those 35 people are going to meet monthly to have this conversation? You think their schedules are going to match up to be able to do this consistently? That's why it's better to have like a smaller group of people get together who are vested, who have a vested interest in fixing college athletics. Does Tiger Woods really give a flip if college basketball gets fixed? Like he cares, but does he really care? He's got tournaments and he wants to play the Masters, for God's sakes, in April. You don't think that's on his mind? I just don't get the idea of putting these people into a room and then expecting to fix a complex problem in a day with everyone bickering and yelling and screaming about different things. And Nick Saban going, you all have no idea what you're talking about. You all haven't done any of this. You never coached. You've never gone and recruited. You've never done anything. I don't understand. Yeah, Vinny, that is a huge round table. 35 people. Yeah, that's a big round table. That's a big, long table. That's what I mean. Like all these big celebrities all sitting down at one table to do what? Like, to do what? What are we actually going to accomplish by doing this? What's the point of this? Again, I like the idea. I like the interest. I like that we're trying to have conversations to fix it. It's the methodology about how to fix this. This isn't going to fix anything. This doesn't fix anything. This is not a serious, real attempt at fixing a problem. This is a photo op. This is about standing in a room with a bunch of famous people and getting people to like slap you on the back and be like, hey, I like you. Hey, I like you. That's great. Not a single active coach is going to be a part of a conversation talking about the future of the sport that they coach. How does that work? That's why I don't think it's serious. That's my frustration point with it. Not a fan. To the NFL. So remember that the NFLPA, they came out with this report card, right? Of teams, what the teams did for travel, what the teams had for the facilities, their overall opinion, right? Well, the NFL was able to stop that from being made public, but they did it last year. They won't do it going forward, but they did do it this year where the players were surveyed, and that survey, surprisingly enough, has leaked. I don't care so much about some of the nuanced, like there's been a lot of conversation about the fact that like the Patriots have their own team plane and yet the Patriot players gave the way they travel an F. So that plane clearly is out to date, old, and needs to be either refurbished or they need a different plane. So that's been a problem. And that's been a big talking point. But what jumped off the page to me when I was reading this were some of the grades that were given to head coaches from their own players. The vast majority of coaches got either an A or an A-, including coaches who got fired, recently been fired. I thought it was pretty interesting to look at this, though. Here's how the players graded their head coaches. Pete Carroll got a C+ from the Raider players. He got blown out. Brian Dabble got a C from Giants players. He got blown out. The Cleveland Browns, their players gave Kevin Stefanski, the 2-time coach of the year in the NFL. He got a C- and he got blown out. But look who kept his job and still got a C+. Jim Harbaugh. This whole Jim Harbaugh shtick, players don't like playing for Jim Harbaugh. That's maybe why they hired Mike McDaniel to be the offensive coordinator. But on the other side, if you ask most people in the league who was over their skis, who was completely over their head coaching this past year, everyone would have said Brian Callahan. But he got a B-. Brian Callahan got a better mark than Jim Harbaugh, who went to the playoffs. Jim Harbaugh took the Chargers to the postseason. The Titans were god-awful under Brian Callahan. And yet Brian Callahan got a B-. And Jim Harbaugh got a C+. Stefanski getting a C- would concern me a bit if I'm a Falcon fan. Not going to lie. If I'm a Falcon fan, you don't really like the fact that that your coach is the Stefanski is on that list as the lowest. No one else got a C-, by the way. Kevin Stefanski got the worst grade from his players. And maybe that's because he didn't care anymore. Maybe because the whole Deshaun Watson fiasco ruined him in Cleveland. For whatever reason, the players in Cleveland did not like Kevin Stefanski. He got the worst grade of any head coach in the NFL. A worse grade than Brian Callahan, which I didn't think was going to be possible. You're right, Vinny. Dicker the kicker did say he likes playing for Coach Harbaugh. But what do you want a kicker to say? You know what I mean? What do you want the kicker to say? Do you want the kicker really to go in there and like publicly at the Super Bowl be like, yeah, my God, playing for Harbaugh, he's a dick. Like, come on. There's no way. Yeah, you can look at I can tell your ish. The grades are like all A's. It's like everybody got A's or A minuses. Like I was really surprised at the number of good grades given out by the players because it was a 9. It was, your name wasn't attached to it when you were voting it. Nobody knew who was voting what for this, but I do think it's kind of interesting when you look at it and go like, oh, so like I get why like Mike Vrabel would get voted that way. Like I understand why certain I understand why certain coaches would get voted, highly. Mike McDonald got obviously an A. Mike Vrabel got an A. Sean McVay got an A. Other coaches got A's, but I don't know. It is sort of wild to look at and see like who got what grade. And Stefanski got the worst grade possible, and C- was the worst. Like nobody got a D. Only they got. Only the coaches C- got that. The full report card is out. Like Yahoo Sports has it. Other media accounts have it, but mostly every coach got either an A or an A-. Some coaches got B's, but I was surprised at how many coaches got decent grades from their players. Matt, is that how you grade your college classes? I'm a really easy grader. If anyone's taken my class, they can tell you it's really hard. It's really difficult not to get an A in my class. Like if you do the work, you get an A. I'm teaching broadcasting. So like, I'm not teaching rocket science, but like if you just show up, if you're energetic, if you give it your all, if you try, I don't care. I'm not here to judge your talent. I'm here to judge your effort. And if you try hard, you get an A in my classes. So I'm a pretty easy grader. But if you don't try, if you don't show up, I'm a bastard to be. I'm no fun. Like you don't want to take my class. If you're somebody who slacks off, if you're somebody who doesn't take it seriously, not good. Like you're good. I've only failed one kid. Could you imagine JPC if I was teaching math? Oh my. Yikes. I look at my daughter's math, what she does right now in 6th grade, and I'm like, yep, you already are smarter than me. Like, I don't know any of this stuff. Like you've already passed me as a 6th grader. You've already passed me in terms that's different. I'm with law. I can handle it, JC, because I can argue my way out of anything. So I would be fine to be a lawyer and me, I can handle. So I would be good with law. Not so much with math. I would not be good with math. There's a bunch of news happening in the industry to bounce around and talk about today. So news of the industry, our guy, Ryan Butler, put this out this morning. In the past 24 hours, just in the last day, this is what's happened. FanDuel has announced a plan to spend hundreds of millions of dollars for its prediction markets in 26. That Massachusetts regulators became the first in the country to require an alert to any sports bettor that you limit or ban, which I would 100% stand and applaud if I could for my home state. I love that. Indiana lawmakers approved a sweeps casino ban. South Dakota lawmakers effectively killed a ballot measure to permit statewide mobile sports betting. Don't like that. Arkansas approved both FanDuel and DraftKings to take legal sports bets mobily in the state. The American Gaming Association announced Americans wagered 167 billion, that's a B, billion in 2025. And the U.S. ambassador to Italy, a major casino owner already, has reportedly shown interest in acquiring Caesars. Caesars needs to be sold. Like, it needs to be sold. It needs to be reconstituted, resold for Vegas's sake. Needs to happen quickly. But what's interesting about that, one, the alert to gamblers who are going to be limited and or banned from betting at Massachusetts-based casinos and sports books, I love. We talked about that for a long time. Look, it's not the full bill of rights that I am looking for when it comes to sports gambling. And I think that I don't think people should be allowed to be banned. I don't think you should be allowed to be limited personally. I think if you take a bet from one person, take a bet from everybody. So if I'm taking $1,000 bet from Jim, I'm taking $1,000 bet from Jack. It shouldn't be 1,000 to Jim and 25 from Jack. I don't like that, but I do like the idea that now there's going to be an alert where you have to actually tell the gambler why. Hey, we are limiting you for this reason. In the wake of that, I don't understand what DraftKings is doing. DraftKings put out an ad right after the Massachusetts Gaming Control Board made that ruling that this is going into effect. They used Boston people. They used Boston sports fans, people decked in Boston sports gear. And the headline is, heading into the weekend, we wanted to remind our bettors that limits don't have to be limiting. It's more fun when it's for fun. That link takes you to their responsible gaming page in which you could set limits on yourself to how much money you can bet and how much money you can lose. But the line, it's more fun when it's for fun, is confusing a lot of people in the wake of the limiting ruling in DraftKings' home state of Massachusetts. So let me ask you this, and I asked this question on Twitter, and I'll ask it here because I genuinely don't understand. When do you get to put the fun label on someone's gambling practices, and when does it become professional? I am a full-time professional sports gambling content creator. I work for multiple companies. Am I a professional gambler? By definition, no. But do I make my money putting out content on picks? The answer would be yes. I am compensated to give out winners or give out content to my audience. You guys in the brigade, the Daily Juice audience. Do I win all the time? Of course not. Have I won recently more than I've lost? Yes. So am I doing it for fun? It's my job. I have fun doing it. I like it. But is my gambling, if I tell everyone tonight to lay the 1.5 points with Michigan, and my podcast is viewed, throw a number out, 50,000 times, right? And of that 50,000, 10,000 of those people go and bet the -1.5. Are they all going to DraftKings? Of course not. But let's just say that, right? Say all 10,000 people, they go and bet at DraftKings. What constitutes fun? It's fun to bet. It's fun to win. It's fun to play. But what constitutes fun? Because what you're telling everybody is you don't want professional gamblers. Okay. And like Dave used to always say, show me the place handing out the sharp card. Show me the place that gets to put on your head the professional gambling hat. Oh, you're now a professional gambler. Well, why? At what level? When do you get to be dictated? When are you then called a professional? And when, if you're a professional, it's no longer for fun. If I have a lot of money, and I'm good at gambling, but I am an accountant and I do something totally non-related to sports gambling, but I like to bet a lot. And so I gamble $1,000 a game and I hit 52%, 53%, whatever it might be of my clip, right? Well, what do you mean by fun? When do we get to classify that it's more fun when it's for fun? What's the for fun line? This is the confusion I have. When do you get to dictate to somebody why they're betting and how they're betting? Because you're using that line as justification for throwing somebody out. You're saying, you're a professional. We don't want your business. Get out. And I have said this for a long time now. That is discriminatory. And I don't understand why we don't allow or we don't have discriminatory lawsuits being pressed against sportsbooks for doing that, for throwing somebody out. You could say it's violating the house rules. Well, can I write the house rules to exclude anybody that I don't like? Can I say, like, anybody who lives in Nevada, you can't bet with DraftKings? Well, no, you can't do that, right? Because the language and it's not fair to do that. You can't do that based on someone's race, their religion, their sexuality. You can't do any of that. But you get to determine whether or not you take the business from somebody that you think wins too much. Now, again, Dave and I talked about the one thing that Dave and I fought about the most on air, off air, was this topic. Because Dave believed that the book should have every right to determine who they want to take action from and who they should not take action from. And I think that's discriminatory. I think that that's discrimination. And we allow it to happen all the time. And now Massachusetts is saying you can discriminate, but you have to tell the person why you are discriminating against that player. They must be alerted as to why you are determining that they can no longer bet at your sports book. But once you find that information out, DraftKings is telling you that if the book believes that you are a professional and you are no longer doing it for, quote, fun, well, then you're out. This is a great point. Dave would make this point. Casinos kick out card counters all the time because it's against the house rules to count cards. Fine. You can dictate that however you want. If you don't want somebody there who's counting cards, you can ask them to leave and say they are no longer welcome to play at the casino. Fine. I understand that. My problem with that is that sports gambling and card counting are vastly different practices. Because, like I just mentioned, the accountant who bets $1,000 a game, who happens to be really good at it, is making his money doing other things, but he happens to be a very good sports gambler. I wouldn't call him a professional, but he's too good. What you're saying is he's too good. We don't want you to play here anymore because you're too good. How do you ever run a sports book with a straight face that you don't want people to win? Winners are not welcome. Think about that marketing strategy. Winners are not welcome. I don't get it. I just don't understand that principle. So when you start talking about the word fun, that it's more fun when it's for fun, meaning we're just some circus and come on in. Like, we don't want anyone who really understands what they're doing. We don't want anybody who actually takes the time to research, to go and bet, find a system that works for them, to go and try to really make money and be a profitable gambler. Again, who gets to determine that if what you're betting is for fun or not? If it's for fun, you're welcome. If you're not playing for fun, you're not welcome. What if I'm playing for fun, but I'm really good? Like, if I ever got limited at DraftKings, I would be like, wait a minute, it's for fun. I have fun doing this. I thought you wanted things that were for fun. I have fun. You have fun, right? Book's like, no, you win. We don't have fun with you because you win. Well, I think it's fun. So you told me you want it. It's more fun when it's for fun. I'm having fun. I'm winning. It's just a weird moving bar. I'm with you, CG. I don't get it. Never understood it. Ish, I'm the accountant who sports. See, Ish is an accountant who's good at sports gambling. I've seen his plays. He's good. He knows what he's doing. But because he knows what he's doing, he's not having fun. It's not for fun. What he's doing is not, he's an accountant and he bets for fun. Thus, he's not welcome to bet at DraftKings. I don't understand. I just don't understand. More on news of the industry coming up in bonus time. If you guys are watching live, don't move. I got a bunch more stuff to come at with this. AGA's got a really interesting way of attacking prediction markets. So we're going to get to that in bonus time, plus the picks for today. And favorite thing about today, if you are watching on the replay on Sports Grid TV, thank you for being here. We appreciate it. The rest of you guys who are live, bonus time now. Okay. I just wanted to put this up because I found this to be fascinating. And my friends at the AGA are doing some work here. American Gaming Association. Sports event contracts offered by prediction markets are misleading consumers. The truth about prediction markets. And this has people fucking fired up. Like this, if you go to Twitter and you see under the AGA at American Gaming, the Twitter the comments are unbelievable. People are really pissed off at this slide. Prediction markets do not offer a true peer-to-peer exchange on sports bets. Many of the quote peers on the other side of those bets are Wall Street quants and trading firms. That's true. Sport event contract platforms do not care if you win or lose. That's true. The house always wins no matter how they frame it. The more you bet, the more they win in trading fees. 100%. That's how Kalshi, Polymarket, they want action. They want volume because they're giving you a fee, which is different by the market. The fee you're charged is differentiating by the market. There's no rhyme or reason. It's up to the individual operator, the platform, to say how much they're going to charge you for that bet. Sports betting is not a financial investment. Thank you. Sports bettors using prediction markets actually lose money faster than those using sports books. True. Prediction market pitch sports contracts as investments, but there is no underlying asset, no hedging function, and they produce a negative expected return for most participants over time. Now, that's the same thing as sports gambling, right? I mean, I would be careful about talking about the negative expectation, the EV, if you will, the expected value of a sports bet. Look, that's it's minus 110 versus it's 110 versus 100 every time. The expected value is that over time, you're going to lose. The more you bet, you're going to lose. So the last slide, I would be a little careful on from the book perspective. Like I would pump the brakes a little bit, kind of getting involved with that stuff. I don't think I would get involved with that because gambling, for the most part, you know, the player's going to lose. Most people are going to lose sports gambling. So I wouldn't compare like you lose less with sports gambling versus prediction markets. That's not what I would be harping on. I would be harping on the other stuff though. I would be harping on who are you betting against? And I would be harping on the fact that sports gambling is a zero-sum game, right? That's the difference. PM markets, they don't care. There's no house. They take their fee, but the fee changes. The fee moves. How much you're paying into those companies, how much you're paying for the right to buy that contract. It is gambling. At the end of the day, it is gambling. The fact that they're claiming it's not gambling is part of the problem with all of this. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, we'll get into it on Monday's show, but there's some pretty wild things coming out about what is going on in the CFTC office in Chicago, and that it's been completely gutted by the government, and there's nobody left. And the Chicago office for the CFTC was largely considered the watchdog group for all the crypto and prediction market companies. And so there's nobody watching the hen house. It's wide open, and there's nobody working. They've taken down all the investigators. So how do you get away with massive scandals and scams? There's nobody paying attention to what you're doing. There's no investigators. There is no police to watch what's happening in that marketplace. So like, that's crazy. And so either 5 or 6 senators have written a letter today to the CFTC demanding explanation for what they've done with the Chicago office and why it's been gutted. So that is fascinating to watch and see how that plays out, because Amy Klobuchar is the ranking member on the oversight committee for the CFTC. And she's a part of this in conversation saying, you better start answering some questions here. What the hell are you guys doing? because it sure feels like there's financial scams going on. And again, you can't underestimate the idea that the president's son is part of two of the biggest companies in the world in the prediction market side of things, the very companies the CFTC is supposed to be policing. Just saying. Just saying. Let's make some bets for tonight. I've already given you one. All right, Just Picks being brought to you by the Prop Bet Cheat Sheet. Prop Bet Cheat Sheet can be found on the Betting Pros app by downloading it in the App Store, in the Google Play Store, or you can go to bettingpros.com/props to look at the prop bets for tonight, tomorrow, the whole weekend for the NBA. I am laying it with the Celtics tonight. I laid it last night with the Spurs against the Nets. I'm laying it with the Celtics. The Nets are done. I watched the game last night. The Nets are awful. Boston is off of a loss to Denver. They're back at home after that road trip in which they blew apart three decent teams in the Lakers, in the Suns, and the Warriors. And now they're back home after losing to Denver. They're back home tonight against the Nets on a Friday night. The Nets are on the road. The Nets were at home last night. They're on a back-to-back. Boston big. I mean, that game in the fourth quarter was a joke. The Nets didn't care. Spurs ran them off the court. Give me the Celtics tonight, laying a big number at 17.5. I told you earlier that I like tonight. I like Michigan -1.5 on the road against a feisty Illinois team tonight. I think Michigan will find a way to get a win here. They're 9-0 on the road. I think that continues here tonight for Michigan. And then in the NHL, I like the Panthers. They played really well last night against Toronto, and I know they're on a back-to-back up against the Sabres, but Buffalo playing a little bit over their heads. And anybody, obviously Tage Thompson being a huge part of Team USA, anybody who's playing, who had big minutes on Team USA, and I get it with some of the Kachuk brothers and whatnot playing for the Panthers, but I just think that those guys have been run ragged, and a loss last night. I'm going in and taking the Panthers here. 4-1. Sabres won 2-1 in their last game against New Jersey. I like Panthers money line tonight, -112 here coming up for that tonight. So Celtics -17.5, Michigan -1, and the Panthers on the money line here tonight at home against the Sabres in the NHL. Favorite thing about today. Okay, two things. Favorite thing about today. First one is not my favorite thing about today, but I just want to take this moment in this time to say this. So I don't know the details of everything at the moment, but I was informed this morning that Will and the editing staff for Sports Grid has been either let go or reassigned. So Will Gardner has done incredible work for us over the years. And that's where the Sorry Will hashtag came from. I am going to be doing it now myself, the editing and the producing of the show. I'm going to do it myself. And so it's, it's the whole nature of this business as to how it's all gone down, where like you just work more and get paid the same. But the industry, and this is my favorite thing about today too, I'll get to it in a second, but like the industry is changing very fast, and companies are tightening their belt straps, tightening their bottom line. They're making changes, they're making adjustments, and they're doing a lot of things that make working in this business very difficult. So I wanted to publicly thank Will here today. He will be editing this show today, and then I'll be doing it coming up on Monday. But I wanted to thank him for everything that he did for us. A lot of the things that you guys don't see are, there's a lot of conversations that have happened over the years with Will and me, Will and Dave got very close with Will, and Will's family, and so when I found that out today, that sucked. I knew I couldn't talk about it on the Sports Grid side of things, but just on our side here in bonus time, to say thank you publicly to Will, and to say I hope we can do anything I can do for him, his family. But this industry is really tough. And my favorite thing about today, it was going to be before I learned of the news. I was going to say it anyway, because I had a long conversation with somebody yesterday who is my age, who has been working in radio and working in sports gambling for as long as I have. And our careers we never worked together, but our careers have been paralleled to each other for a long period of time. And, he talked to me about the difficulties he's having finding a job in this business and how hard it is to work in this business. And he's trying his hardest to, keep himself in the game. And it made me be so thankful that Dave and I took the leap, that we established BvB, that we were able to get the show funded for a year by a company, because your first year is the most difficult year to do anything in media. And it normally doesn't make money. You have to have a proof of concept. You have to show that there can be an audience, that you can build something from scratch that's never been there. You got to pull it out of the ether, and you got to create this thing, and you got to see, do people like it? Then you got to tweak it, and you got to make it so everybody finds a home and they feel welcome and they want to watch it and they want to spend time with you and they want to give you the most valuable thing that they have, which is their time. And having this conversation going, like, this guy was just asking me for anything. It's like, do you know of any opportunities? Do you know of anybody who's looking for stuff? Anybody in the sports gambling space is looking for stuff? And like, my heart broke for the guy. And I was like, I would tell you to start your own show and do your own thing, but you're my age. And I got to be honest, if I'm 48, 49, 50 years old right now, I don't know if I would have had it in me to go through the first 2 years. I did that in my 40s, like in my mid 40s. And we were coming out of COVID, and like we were coming out of this, in 2021, when we started all this 5-6 years ago, the world was totally different. The sports gambling space was still rocking. There was still a ton of hope and hype about what the future was going to look like for the sports gambling world. And now all we're seeing is cutting. And nobody can turn the lights out on this show but me. I can do it for free. If nobody wants to sponsor it, if nobody wants to watch it, I can still do it, just talking to the camera and hope that people pay attention to it. But nobody can come in and say, Matt, you're done, but me. And because of that, because I have that, that's my favorite thing about today, is that after talking with somebody and realizing, my God, all of the problems, all of the issues, the first 2 years, the first year was great. The first year on our own was awful. I mean, we made nothing. And I mean nothing that first year. And the money that we did, the little money that we did make, we gave to the producer. We gave it to Farah. He made, somewhat decent money, but Dave and I made nothing that first year. And we were lucky to be able to keep the show afloat because we had other jobs that let us do that. Year 3, things changed and we started to pick up momentum. We started to get some opportunities and we started to grow. But to have, to tell somebody who's in, close to 50 years old, hey, by the way, you got to suck on the end of a tailpipe for 2 years until this thing actually pans out for you. That sucks. That sucks. So for Will, he was, we loved working with him. I hope that some way, somehow we can find a way to keep working with Will and keep him, going with us. I'm going to do the editing for the show myself for a while and see how long I can do that. But again, it's another thing that I have to do, myself. And, at some point there aren't enough hours in the day for me to do everything that I want to do. So, when they told me that this morning, I was like, okay. They're like, hey, Matt, you need to do this yourself. And I was like, oh, okay. So this industry is changing rapidly, and the companies that pay employees, as Dave used to always say, just keep doing the show. And the reason why that line became a thing, just keep doing the show, was because of conversations like I had yesterday. Because, there's 2 conversations. I had a conversation with this sports gambling content creator yesterday. And then I also had a conversation with a company that is coming on board that they're going to join us in 2 weeks, and they're looking for places to get the word out. And there aren't many shows left. Like there aren't many people paying attention on the mass side of things. And they have this new app coming out, which I really think is interesting. It's a sports gambling investment app, which we'll talk about it in a couple of weeks, but I think it's going to be awesome. Underdog funded it. And what they're doing is trying to help people be responsible with their gambling and help them save money while they bet. And it's the easiest way of describing it. Basically, it's Acorns. If you know the Acorn app, it's Acorns for sports gambling. That's what they've created. And I love it because they're going after parlays and they're saying this is not the way to do it. Like we should, if you're going to bet parlays, make sure that you're saving some of the money that you eventually 1 every 10 times when you win, make sure that you're keeping some of that money for yourself and not just leaving it in the sports book. So having that conversation, realizing like there's just not that many places anymore for a company like that that's a startup to how do they get the word out? How do they, where do they go? How many shows used to be just like this? BvB used to be one of, 50, 60 shows in the country that was talking about the gaming industry, sports betting, the future, bets, behind the counter, responsible gambling, how to bet, when to bet, where to bet, all that stuff, right? There were so many shows that were like that. Look how many are left. There's just not that many that are left. They've all gone out of business. They've all had their funding drop, or they've all had all their issues. Everything's changed. So companies that are trying to stay afloat, companies that are trying to operate on a macro level are really having a hard time staying in business. And so the best way is just to do it yourself. And you only answer to yourself. But in order to get to the place where now I'm getting people to come to me. Like I got an email today from a guy that is doing this. It's like, hey, I want to talk to you about this sports league that I am starting that I think your audience might find to be really interesting because we're having this innovative way of betting. Okay. But it took us a long time it took me, I'm going to say us for a long time. It's by habit. I don't mean it to be offensive. I apologize. But me, to contact me to want to be a part of the show, to say, hey, I want to talk to you about what it means to be a part of this and what you guys are doing. And how is the show surviving? That's the question I get asked the most from people is, how the hell are you still doing the show? How are you able to do that? I don't understand. Well, I was lucky. I've been lucky. I've been fortunate to be able to. You guys are the reason. Just been lucky. And so that is, that is how this show has able to be kept alive, going months without having a single dollar coming in. Over the course of 5 years, if you take the 60 months that this show has been in existence, more than half of them, we have received zero marketing dollars. Things have changed. BetCris and Adam Bjorn, they funded the show for the entire year. We are funded for all of 2026 until next Super Bowl. We are funded. And I hope that relationship goes for a long time. But we are funded by those guys. And so the show is, for the first time in my going on 6 years of doing this show, we know the show has right now a contract to go until February of next year. That's gigantic to have that knowledge. So for that, to have that chance to build the show and build this YouTube channel and do all the things we want to do, I am forever grateful. My favorite thing about today is that I feel for the guy that I was talking to yesterday, and I feel for Huel. I feel for anybody at Sports Grid who got really unfortunate news today that they won't be there. But I just want to keep doing the show, and that up to this point for right now, we can keep doing this show until at least February of 27. We're not going after that. I don't know. But up to that point, we are going to be here for another year. Next 12 months, you're stuck with me. And hopefully every day you guys will come on back and be a part of the program. So my thanks to Huel. Buddy, if I can do anything for you, please let me know. I'll do whatever I can to help you out on that. That news sucked today. Have a phenomenal weekend, guys. We will talk to you coming up on Monday to recap all of it. Good game tonight, Michigan and Illinois. Enjoy that basketball game tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun. Back on Monday for a new episode of the Bostonian versus the Book, presented by BetCris Arizona.